to start off with is 1 brick of softened cream cheese. Now you want to make sure this is at room temperature. The same with the goat cheese. This is 8 ounces. It comes in a roll. You're going to find that over by the deli. And that is also an 8-ounce roll of goat cheese. If you don't want to go the goat cheese route, totally acceptable. Just use 2 bricks of cream cheese. You decide. It's up to you. The goat cheese has a distinctive tanginess and an earthiness to it that the cream cheese doesn't have, but when blended together, they are just wow. What we're going to put in here as far as our garden goes, we have some very finely shredded carrot, and all of these jars are 1/2 cup. So you can see there's a 1/2 cup of carrot, a 1/2 cup of very finely diced red bell pepper, 1/2 cup or so. This is about 3 green onions, white and green parts thinly sliced. I have about 1/4 cup of freshly minced parsley, about a tablespoon or so. I bought one of those little plastic containers with fresh dill in it. I took it off the stem and chopped it up, and it ends up being about 1.5 tablespoons, so that's what we're rolling with today. I also, same deal with the chives, little plastic package of chives because that's what I had available at my grocer, and it ends up being about 3 tablespoons. So you go with what you want. You don't have to add all of these. You can add some of them. You can add none of them. It's completely up to you. And as far as the fresh herbs go, if you don't have access to fresh herbs or don't want to spend the money on them, just go to your spice rack. But since I've used about 1/4 cup, fresh parsley, you're going to want to go ahead and use about a tablespoon of dried parsley. You always want to severely cut down when you're not using fresh herbs because the dried herbs are more intense in flavor, so keep that in mind. I'm also using a 1/2 teaspoon each salt, cracked black pepper, celery seed, and a whole teaspoon of dried minced garlic and dried flaked onion. So that's how it rolls right now. We are going to get our hand mixer and we're going to beat the goat cheese and the cream cheese together. All right, so now our goat cheese and our cream cheese are nicely blended and they're really nice and soft. So here's where you're probably going to look at that like I did and say, oh, that's kind of tight and I kind of want it a little bit more loose. So your first instinct is to kind of maybe put a little milk in there, but don't, because our vegetables have some moisture in them and we want to make sure that we account for that because we don't want this to be too watery. In the end, when the veggies start to leach their moisture, you're going to be able to keep this in your fridge for, up to maybe a week and a half before it starts to get yucky. So we're going to go ahead and toss our veggies in. And at this point, we're just going to throw everything in here at once. All of our herbs and our veggies, our dried spices, everything going together. Blend it all up. And that's how hard that was. Now we're just going to scrape it down. I'm going to go ahead and put this in a container, but first, let's give it a taste. You want to give it a taste?
I have to.
Since you were already licking the beaters off? How'd that taste, honey?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. This is where you want to taste it for seasoning. Doesn't need more salt or anything else. Doesn't need something else. Nope. Oh, it's delicious.
Yeah, really good.
Now once those dried spices like the onion and the garlic get fully hydrated, they are going to take up some of the moisture in here, but they're going to add a really lovely punch of flavor. So you want to make this and have it sit in your fridge for at least an hour or so before you use it. I'm going to go ahead and put this out for you guys with some crackers so you can see what it looks like. So I'll be right back. Well, there you have it. I put out a little cheese and cracker tray for us. We're going to have this for lunch today, but don't let your imagination stop with cheese and crackers because I'm going to be using this in a great back-to-school lunchbox treat. You can spread this on burgers, on chicken sandwiches. You can spread it on just about anything, really. You could put this wherever you want. This is a great option for any time. It's a great thing to make and take as a hostess gift if you've been invited to a picnic, a potluck, a barbecue, or a cocktail party, or something like that. I bet it's even good on an apple slice. So that's it. That's how you make my garden, vegetable, and herb cream cheese spread. Start making this, and this is beer cheese. This is like a cheese spread, also known as Kentucky beer cheese. I have only had it a couple times in my life, and it's really quite tasty. There are two different incarnations of beer cheese. There's a spreadable style beer cheese, and there's a dippable style beer cheese, which is usually served warm, and it's more like a cheese sauce or a cheese fondue-esque kind of thing, if you will. This is the spreadable kind, but it's loose enough that if you let it sit at room temperature, you'll be able to dip your pretzel nuggets in it or whatever else you choose. I have the Bosch set up. If you don't have a Bosch, I highly recommend you use your food processor for this recipe, because you are going to need to have a pretty sturdy motor in order to make this all happen. So what I have in here is, we're going to use 4 cups, and I have some Colby, some white cheddar, some sharp cheddar, and a little wedge of Gouda that I had. I have hand grated all of this myself, and we're going to add some seasoning to this mix. We're going to add a teaspoon each of onion powder and garlic powder. There's the onion powder. And you can adjust this however you like. I'm going to use a half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. If you like yours spicier, then you should add more cayenne. Or as an alternative, you can add your favorite hot sauce. Just shake it in until it's hot enough for you. I'm also going to add a teaspoon of seasoned salt. There is no substitute, in my opinion, for seasoned salt. This is just good old Lowry's. What we're going to add to this now is a tablespoon, actually 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And I'm going to kind of blend this up until the cheese starts to mass together. Now, do you see how the cheese is starting to come together like clay? That's when you want to start adding your beer. I'm going to add, what I have here is a cup of lager style beer, and what we use today is Landshark Lager, which is this. This is very good beer. We enjoy this one. And you want it to be flat. So I actually poured this out a couple of hours ago, and I put a colander on the top of it, and then I just let it go flat. And we're going to go ahead and blend this up until this looks like a smooth spreadable cheese. You may have to add the rest of the beer, and we'll go from there. All right. After I added the beer, I tested it, and it was a little bit loose. So I went ahead and I added the rest of the cheese that I had in my bowl, which ended up being about 2 cups. So we have 6 cups of cheese, a cup of beer, 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, a teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of garlic powder, a half a teaspoon of cayenne, and a teaspoon of seasoned salt. Don't worry about the recipe. I will have it posted on my website. You can see the texture and the consistency is beautiful and spreadable. See, it doesn't like fall off of the spatula. It's going to be really nice. You could put this out with your pretzels and you're going to be able to dip into it, or you can put it out with crackers and a spreading knife, and everyone's going to be able to enjoy this. You could also put it out with celery and carrot sticks, and it's going to be a really great little nosh to add to your snack table. I think everyone's going to love this. There you have it. Delicious Kentucky style beer cheese, all ready to go. This makes a ton. You can totally have the recipe. You can see how nice and creamy it is. Now you're going to want to ultimately put this in the refrigerator to set up a little bit before you eat it, because the flavors will meld a little more. So best to make it like the day before. You can make this up to a week in advance, and then you'll have it ready to go for your party. Like I said, you could make half of this recipe and it will be great. Or you can make it to share. So that's up to you.
That is delicious.
Oh, it's good, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. So good.
You can also adjust the salt if you don't like to use a whole teaspoon of seasoned salt, because cheese is salty, Worcestershire is salty, all of that goes without saying. So you may want to try it without the salt first, and then add maybe a half a teaspoon or go from there depending on what you like. As this chills, it is going to blend and the flavors are going to mellow, and it's not going to be so in your face. It's a very strong flavor, but it is very, very delicious. That's how you make Kentucky style beer cheese spread. So I hope that you give it a try. So you're going to start with with a brick of cream cheese. This is an 8-ounce brick of regular old cream cheese. I have 3 cups of shredded sharp cheddar that I shredded myself. I do recommend that you shred your own cheese right off the block because it doesn't have all of that cellulose fiber and extra stuff that they put in there to keep it from sticking together. A half a cup each of mayonnaise and sour cream, and then I've got about a quarter of a cup, a little bit more, of these are roasted red peppers that I chopped. You can also buy little jars of pimentos in the like in the condiment section of the grocery store, but they're really expensive. Ounce for ounce, it's better to just go buy a jar of roasted red peppers and chop them up yourself, because you're gonna get a better deal, and roasted red peppers are awesome anyway, and you can do a lot with them. We're gonna season this up with a teaspoon each of onion powder and garlic powder, and a half a teaspoon each of salt and cracked black pepper. I'm also gonna throw in a couple of dashes of hot sauce, whatever's your choice. This happens to be Chipotle Tabasco. So all we do now is I like to make this in the food processor because it makes it a lot easier to deal with, and we're just gonna put everything in the food processor. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and process this just for a moment to get this all blended up together. Okay, now our cheese is kind of blended up, and then we're gonna add in the sour cream, the mayonnaise, and all the good seasonings. There goes our sour cream. Make sure you use a good quality mayonnaise, and this is not the place to use salad dressing or Miracle Whip. This is the place to use good old-fashioned mayonnaise. There goes our pimentos. And this pimento cheese is actually gonna be a gift for somebody. A little bit of chipotle sauce. And then back on with the lid. We're gonna process this until it's nice and smooth. All right, we are ready to go. Our pimento cheese is all mixed up. Now this is gonna be best if you let this sit in the fridge overnight. So if you wanna use it for tomorrow, make sure you make it today and let it set, but it's probably delicious now. Oh, that's good. Now, my recipe calls for a quarter of a cup of chopped green onion. I didn't have any on hand, so I just left it out. And if that's the case for you, don't sweat it. Don't not make this because you don't have the green onions. And if you don't like green onions, leave it out. I'm gonna go plate this so I can show it to you guys, and I'll be back in a moment. There you have it. Our pimento cheese all ready to go, ready to serve. This is how I would serve it, just with some butter crackers or some little slices of baguette. Pretzels are great dipped in here. You name it. You could also put this on a veggie tray and dip veggies in it. It's delicious. And it just is something a little bit different than onion dip or ranch dressing or what have you. And you can adjust the heat here. I use just a couple of shakes of Chipotle Tabasco, but you can add more or you can leave it out altogether. It's completely up to you. Like I said, normally I would add chopped green onion in here, and that does add a little bit of an extra flavor, but without it, it's just as delicious. So you decide how you want to make it. I hope you give Southern style pimento cheese a try sometime soon, and I hope you love it.